Major League Baseball has a secret hidden inside the walls of high-altitude stadiums, and it's robbing your favorite players of history. We're exposing how humidors are being used to artificially manipulate moisture levels, turning elite exit velocities into routine flyouts. This isn't just physics. It's a silent sabotage of the game's integrity. At 8:47 on a dry July night, Isaiah Reed hit a baseball so hard that every screen inside Summit Field predicted history before the ball reached its highest point. The exit velocity flashed at 114.2 miles per hour. The launch angle registered 31 degrees. The center field camera tracked the white blur climbing into the thin Colorado air while 47,000 people rose together, already screaming for Reed's 400th career home run. Then the ball died. It did not hook foul. It did not hit the top of the wall. It simply stopped carrying as if an invisible hand had pressed against it from above. The center fielder drifted back, set his feet on the warning track and caught it without leaving the ground. The crowd groaned. Reed stood halfway between first and second, staring toward center field with the expression of a man who had just watched the laws of physics betray him. 3 levels above home plate, Malik Turner stared at the same flight path on 6 monitors. He was 38 years old, black, broad-shouldered, and still built like the minor league slugger he had once been. A thin scar crossed his right eyebrow from a collision at second base years earlier. He wore a gray data services polo instead of a uniform now, but his hands still tightened whenever he saw a ball struck cleanly. On the screen beside him, Summit Field's atmospheric model calculated an expected distance of 452 feet. The official distance appeared 3 seconds later, 396. Malik leaned closer. "That's impossible," he whispered. His coworker Devin Shaw barely looked up from his laptop. "Nothing's impossible at altitude. This is the opposite of altitude." Devin shrugged. "Wind knocked it down." "No wind, bad reading then." All 4 radar systems agreed. Devin finally looked at the replay. Reed's swing was compact, violent, and perfect. The ball left the bat on a trajectory that should have cleared the center field wall by 30 feet. Instead, it had fallen like wet sand. Malik pulled up the stadium pressure, temperature, wind, and density feeds. Everything was normal for a high-altitude summer night. The air was thin. The temperature was 78 degrees. The roof vents were open. No storm front had moved through. Only one variable remained, the baseball. He switched to the equipment feed and searched for the game ball storage report. The system showed the balls had been held in the league-approved humidor for the required period, but the moisture line was blank. Malik refreshed the page, still blank. A chill moved through him despite the warm electronics humming around the booth. Humidors were supposed to create consistency. At high altitude, dry air could make baseballs lighter, harder, and more elastic. Controlled storage added moisture, reducing extreme flight and helping pitchers grip the seams. The system had been publicly explained for years as a fairness measure. Malik had believed that explanation. He had helped design part of it. 8 years earlier, after his playing career collapsed, he had accepted a consulting job with Aerostat Dynamics, the company that built environmental models for several major league stadiums. Malik had written software that predicted how temperature, elevation, drag, and ball moisture affected flight. He had imagined his work would make the game more honest. Now, watching Isaiah Reed's home run turn into a routine out, Malik wondered whether he had built the weapon that had just been used against him. The inning ended. Reed slammed his helmet into the dugout rack. Malik opened the internal game log and searched for the ball batch, Lot SRED. He ran the number through the season database. The same lot had appeared in 12 games. Home run rates in those games were 38% below the stadium average. He narrowed the search to visiting hitters with exit velocities over 108 miles per hour. 23 balls, 17 outs. That was not bad luck, that was a pattern. Before Malik could save the results, the database window closed. A security message replaced it. Access REVOKED. He tried again. His password failed. Across the booth, Devin's screen went dark too. "What did you do?" Devin asked. "Nothing." The door opened behind them. Grant Holloway, Summit Field's vice president of stadium operations, stepped inside with 2 security officers. Holloway was a polished white man in his early 50s with silver hair, an expensive navy suit, and the calm smile of someone accustomed to being obeyed before he finished speaking. "Malik," he said, "step away from the terminal." Malik did not move. "Why is the moisture data missing?" Holloway's smile remained in place. "This is not the time." It became the time when the ball stopped carrying. One of the security officers shifted forward, but Holloway raised a hand. "You're a contractor," Holloway said. "Your job is to monitor approved data, not conduct independent investigations." "I found a statistical anomaly. You found a reason to violate access limits. I wrote half the model that identified it, and you no longer work for the company that owns that model." The words struck harder than Malik expected. Aerostat had pushed him out 3 years earlier after he questioned why several clients wanted individualized ball flight projections tied to specific hitters. The company had called it routine performance analysis. Malik had called it a blueprint for manipulation. He had left quietly because he needed the severance money for his mother's medical bills. Holloway held out his hand. "Badge." The game continued beyond the glass. The crowd roared as a Summit Field hitter lined a double into the gap. Malik removed the badge from his belt but did not surrender it. Was Reed supposed to hit that ball out? Holloway asked softly. Malik studied him. What kind of question is that? A practical one. Fans believe every ball has a destiny. It doesn't, it has variables. Variables aren't supposed to change by player. For the first time, Holloway's smile weakened. That was enough. Malik saw it, and Holloway saw that Malik had seen it. Give me the badge, Holloway said. Malik placed it in his palm. As security escorted him toward the service elevator, Malik looked back at the monitors. The replay of Reed's fly ball was running again in slow motion. The bat flexed. The seams blurred. The outfielder waited. The ball fell short. But on one frozen frame just before contact, Malik saw a small black mark near the horseshoe seam. It was not dirt. It was an equipment room tracking symbol, almost invisible at game speed. Malik knew that symbol. He had seen it before 12 years earlier on the night his own baseball career ended. 12 years earlier, Malik had been one promotion away from the major leagues. He played first base for the Albuquerque Roadrunners, a AAA club known for turning ordinary contact into towering home runs. The altitude rewarded power, and Malik had plenty of it. He hit 28 home runs before the All-Star break and entered August with scouts from 5 major league teams following him. Then the baseballs changed. Malik did not know it at the time. He only knew that his hardest contacts stopped traveling. Line drives became deep outs. Balls he hit off the barrel landed in gloves at the wall. Over 6 weeks, his slugging percentage collapsed, his confidence followed, and the scouts disappeared. His manager told him pitchers had adjusted. His agent told him he was pressing. A team doctor told him his bat speed had fallen, even though the measurements said otherwise. By September, Malik was benched. By the following spring, he was released. The black mark he had seen on the replay at Summit Field was the same mark that had appeared on a ball he kept from his final game in Albuquerque. A clubhouse attendant had tossed it to him after Malik hit a 110-mile-per-hour drive that died on the warning track with the bases loaded. He had carried that ball for years as a reminder of failure. Now it felt like evidence. Malik drove across Denver after midnight with the stadium lights shrinking in his rearview mirror. He lived in a narrow brick duplex on the west side, where his mother, Denise, occupied the downstairs bedroom and filled the kitchen with handwritten reminders for medications, appointments, and bills. She was asleep when he arrived. He moved quietly through the dark living room and opened a cedar trunk beneath the staircase. Old gloves, lineup cards, photographs, and faded uniforms filled the box. At the bottom sat the baseball from Albuquerque inside a clear plastic cube. Malik turned on the kitchen light. The mark was still there, a tiny black crescent near the seam. He photographed it, then searched the old minor league equipment codes stored on his private computer. The symbol did not appear in any official catalog. At 1:16 a.m. His phone vibrated, unknown number. He let it ring twice before answering. You looked in the wrong place, a woman said. Who is this? The moisture line was blank because the number isn't stored with the game log anymore. Malik sat very still. Where is it stored? A pause followed. Do you still have the badge they took from you? No. Good, that means they think you're out. The caller hung up. 30 seconds later a text arrived with an address and a time. 6:00 a.m. City Park Boathouse. Come alone. Malik did not sleep. At dawn, he found a woman sitting on a bench beside the water, wearing a red windbreaker and holding a paper cup. She was Latina, perhaps 45, with dark hair tied tightly behind her head and the guarded posture of someone who had spent years pretending not to notice dangerous things. Lena Ortiz, Malik asked, her eyes narrowed. How do you know my name? You supervise game ball storage. That information isn't public. It was in an old Aerostat implementation file. She looked toward the walking path. Sit down. Malik sat at the far end of the bench. Lena kept her voice low. There are 2 humidors beneath Summit Field. The stadium plans show one. The stadium plans show what inspectors are meant to see. She explained that the public humidor sat behind the main equipment room, sealed with league sensors and automatic logging. Every inspection tour passed through it. Its temperature and humidity remained within regulation. The second room sat behind a movable storage wall in an older service corridor. It had no league markings, no public inventory, and no connection to the official stadium network. What's inside it? Malik asked. Baseballs. How many? Enough to control a season. Malik felt anger rising, but he forced himself to stay quiet. Lena said game balls arrived in standard sealed boxes. Most entered the official humidor. Selected batches were moved into the hidden room and stored under different moisture conditions. Some were made slightly heavier and less lively. Others were dried to increase carry. How different? Malik asked. Sometimes barely measurable, sometimes enough that players start questioning their swing. Who chooses the batches? I don't know the whole chain. Holloway sends encrypted color orders. Red means suppress, gold means carry, white means normal. Malik looked at the old ball in the plastic cube which he had brought inside his jacket. He set it between them. Lena stared at the black crescent. That's an old suppress mark, she said, from Albuquerque. Her face changed. You were there? I played there. She looked away. Then this started earlier than I thought. Malik asked why she had called him. Lena gripped the coffee cup until the lid bent. Her younger brother Mateo had worked as a clubhouse assistant at Summit Field. 3 months earlier, he had noticed two different storage carts being used during the same series. He photographed the ball labels and told Lena he planned to report it. 2 days later, he was fired for theft. A week after that, he was arrested when police found stolen memorabilia in his apartment. He didn't steal anything, Lena said. Someone planted it. Can he prove that? He took a plea. They threatened him with 5 years. Malik understood the trap. Organizations did not always destroy whistleblowers publicly. Sometimes they simply changed the story around them until nobody believed anything they said. Lena reached into her jacket and handed Malik a small memory card. Mateo copied shipping manifests before they removed his access. Malik held it between 2 fingers. What am I looking for? Batches sent to stadiums above 3,000 feet start with Summit Field, Desert Crown Park, and Mountain West Stadium. Those are 3 different clubs, same logistics contractor. Aerostat, Lena nodded. Malik looked across the lake. Morning sunlight had begun to strike the glass towers downtown. Why manipulate a fence? He asked. What does Holloway gain? Maybe it isn't about Holloway. What is it about? Lena faced him at last. Records, contracts, betting lines, television drama, I don't know. But they aren't changing every game, they're changing the games that matter. Before Malik could ask another question, Lena stood. You need someone outside baseball, she said. Not a team reporter, not a former player, someone they can't bury with one phone call. Who? There's a federal sports integrity unit. Malik almost laughed. You think the federal government is going to investigate damp baseballs? Lena's expression stayed hard. They will when damp baseballs move millions of dollars. She walked away without finishing her coffee. Malik remained on the bench, the memory card in one hand and the old marked baseball in the other. For 12 years, he had blamed himself for losing his career. Now he faced a more painful possibility. Maybe he had not failed. Maybe someone had selected him. Malik spent the next day inside the basement office of his independent analytics company, Turner Flight Metrics. The company occupied 2 rooms above a tire shop and survived mostly on college recruiting reports, arbitration models, and private swing analysis for players who distrusted team data departments. Malik had built it slowly after leaving Aerostat, one client at a time. By noon, he had decrypted the shipping manifest from Mateo's memory card. The files did not mention humidity. They listed batch numbers, delivery dates, storage codes, and routing instructions. At first, the information looked harmless. Then Malik matched the codes to game results. Red-coded batches appeared before a veteran slugger reached a contract bonus tied to home runs. Gold-coded batches appeared during nationally televised rivalry games advertised as offensive showcases. Suppressed batches arrived before several visiting stars entered Summit Field chasing career milestones. The strongest pattern involved Isaiah Reed. Reed, a 34-year-old black outfielder for the Baltimore Admirals, had spent 15 seasons becoming one of the most feared hitters in baseball. He entered the Colorado series with 399 home runs. His next one would make him the fastest player in league history to reach 400 while also stealing 300 bases. The league had promoted the chase for weeks. Yet every Summit Field shipment connected to Reed's series carried a red code. Malik checked the betting markets. Billions of legal wagers moved through baseball each season, including home run props, total runs, and milestone bets. A manipulated ball did not need to guarantee an outcome. It only needed to shift the probability enough for someone with advanced knowledge to profit. He called Cassandra Vale. Cassandra was an investigative reporter for a national newspaper, and she disliked Malik for reasons both personal and justified. They had dated for 2 years while Malik worked at Aerostat. The relationship ended after he refused to tell her why he had abruptly resigned. She answered on the 5th ring. You have 60 seconds, she said. I have evidence that game balls are being altered after shipment. 45 seconds. High-altitude stadiums, hidden humidors, selected batches, player-specific suppression. Silence. Then Cassandra said, that is an accusation, not evidence. I have manifests and statistical correlations. You have paperwork you may not legally possess and numbers baseball can explain as random variation. I have a physical ball marked with an old suppress code. How old? 12 years. That hurts you more than it helps. Malik closed his eyes. Cassandra was doing what a good reporter should do, attacking every weakness before the target could. What would make it real? He asked. A current ball from a documented batch, a clean chain of custody, independent laboratory testing, and an internal instruction proving intent. That's all. And someone inside willing to go on record. Malik thought of Lena and Mateo. Can you protect a source? I can protect a source from my newsroom. I can't protect them from a corporation, a grand jury, or their own mistakes. He told her about Isaiah Reed's game. Cassandra exhaled. You're saying the league promoted a historic home run while a stadium secretly prepared baseballs to prevent it. I'm saying someone did. Why would the league sabotage its own milestone? I don't know yet. Find out before you use the word league. She ended the call. That evening, Malik drove to a private training facility where Isaiah Reed worked out between games. Reed's security team refused to let him inside, so Malik waited near the parking exit until Reed emerged. Reed recognized him before Malik introduced himself. Malik Turner, he said, 32 bombs in Albuquerque, 29, should have been 32. The comment landed strangely. Malik held out the plastic cube containing the old ball. Why did you say that? Reed looked toward his driver, then back at Malik. Because I played there the year after you. Everybody knew the baseballs changed late that season. Who's everybody? Players, clubhouse guys, coaches who wouldn't say it in meetings. You never reported it. To whom? The same people telling us the numbers were normal. Malik showed him the flight data from the previous night. Reed's face hardened as he studied the model. I knew I got it, he said. Your swing was clean. My swing has been clean all month. This is the third park where a ball died like that. Which other parks? Reed named 2 stadiums from Lena's list. Malik felt the shape of the scheme expanding. He asked Reed whether anything unusual connected the games. Reed hesitated. My agent's negotiating an extension, he said. The team wants to use age decline against me. Every home run matters. Who has access to those negotiations? Half the industry. Would you go public? Not with a theory. I can get the ball tested. How? I need one from tomorrow's game before it gets used. Reed shook his head. Players don't control the game ball supply, but you can foul one into your dugout. You want me to deliberately foul a pitch? I want you to preserve a ball from a documented batch. That could get me suspended. So could accusing the stadium without proof. Reed stared at him for a long moment. Then he handed Malik a phone number written on the back of a training receipt. That's Andre Bell, our head equipment manager. Don't tell him I sent you. Before getting into the car, Reed paused. Malik, suppose you prove it. What happens to all the players whose numbers were changed? I don't know. That's the part nobody wants to answer. The next morning, Malik met Andre in a 24-hour diner near the airport. Andre was a heavy-set black man in his 60s with tired eyes and a World Series ring he wore on a chain beneath his shirt. He had worked in clubhouses for 37 years and had learned that survival depended on seeing everything while appearing to notice nothing. When Malik mentioned the hidden humidor, Andre did not look surprised. They call it environmental tuning, Andre said. Who calls it that? People who wear credentials without uniforms. How long has it happened? Different versions, decades, mud, storage, temperature, rubbing, selection. Baseballs have never been as identical as the league pretends. This is more than normal variation. I know. Andre explained that modern tracking made manipulation both easier to detect and easier to disguise. If a ball underperformed, officials blamed natural manufacturing variance. If a pattern appeared, analysts adjusted the model. The abundance of data created noise, and noise provided cover. Malik asked whether Andre could obtain a ball from the red batch. No, Andre said. Then he slid a folded lineup card across the table. On the back was a service door schedule. But somebody could be standing near the loading corridor at 3:20 this afternoon when the official ball cart passes a blind camera. Malik looked at him. Why help me? Andre touched the ring beneath his shirt. Because I spent my life protecting the game, and somewhere along the way I started protecting the people who were hurting it. At 3:20, Malik entered Summit Field wearing a delivery uniform and pushing an empty beverage cart. Lena had left the service door unlatched for 11 seconds. That was all he needed. He moved through the concrete corridor past the official equipment room and reached the blind camera just as a sealed cart rolled around the corner. The attendant pushing it was not Lena. It was Grant Holloway. Holloway stopped. Malik stopped. For one suspended second, neither man spoke. Then Holloway looked at the delivery logo on Malik's shirt and smiled without humor. You always were bad at walking away, he said. Malik glanced at the locked cart. And you always were afraid of audits. Holloway stepped closer. You think this is about cheating? What would you call it? Control. Of what? Chaos. Holloway's voice remained calm, but the corridor seemed to narrow around them. Baseball sells certainty, he said. Records, projections, stars, races, but altitude turns the game into a carnival. Owners hate unpredictability. Broadcasters hate meaningless September games. Sportsbooks hate unexplained variance. We make the environment manageable. By choosing whose ball carries, by keeping the product alive. Malik felt his phone recording inside his shirt pocket. Holloway's eyes dropped briefly toward it, then the lights went out. The darkness lasted less than 3 seconds. When the emergency lights came on, Holloway had one hand inside Malik's shirt and the other around his wrist. The phone struck the concrete and skidded beneath the ball cart. Malik drove his shoulder forward. Holloway stumbled into the wall, but 2 security officers appeared from the far end of the corridor before Malik could reach the phone. Don't make this worse, Holloway said. Malik raised both hands. One officer retrieved the phone. The screen had cracked, but the recording timer was still moving. Holloway ended it and slipped the device into his pocket. You're trespassing, he said. You attempted to interfere with regulated game equipment. By tonight, every baseball employee in the country will know your name for the wrong reason. You admitted it. I explained climate management to a former contractor already under investigation for stealing proprietary information. Malik looked at the security cameras. This corridor is recorded, not during a maintenance outage. That was when Malik understood the purpose of the blackout. It had not been an accident. Holloway had prepared for him, which meant Lena's access had been compromised. Where is Lena? Malik asked. Holloway's silence answered. The officers escorted Malik through a private exit and released him after stadium council warned that criminal charges would follow if he returned. His phone, memory card, and old baseball were retained as evidence. By the time Malik reached his car, news alerts were already appearing. Former minor leaguer questioned in stadium security incident. A team statement claimed Malik had entered a restricted area while carrying unauthorized electronic equipment. Aerostat issued a separate statement saying he had been terminated years earlier for professional misconduct involving confidential systems. The lie spread faster than the truth had ever moved. At 5:40 p.m., Cassandra called, "Tell me you backed up the files." "I did." "Tell me the recording uploaded automatically." Malik looked at the cloud icon on his backup tablet. It showed a partial file, 41 seconds, enough to capture Holloway saying baseball sold certainty and that we make the environment manageable. Not enough to include the clearest admission about choosing outcomes. Cassandra listened twice. "It's suggestive," she said, "not conclusive. They took Lena. Do you know that?" "No, then don't say it." Malik struck the steering wheel. "Every time I get close, the standard changes." "The standard hasn't changed. You're accusing powerful people of altering professional games. The proof has to survive lawyers, scientists, league investigators, and everyone who needs you to be wrong." The second game of the series began in less than 2 hours. Isaiah Reed was still sitting on 399 home runs. Malik pulled up the service schedule Andre had given him. Holloway had personally moved the red batch, but a second line on the sheet listed an emergency replacement cart authorized for the 7th inning. He called Andre. "Can game balls be replaced mid-game?" "If an umpire rejects a batch, yes." "Who can make that happen?" "The crew chief." "Who can reach him?" Andre paused. "A player, a manager, or someone with direct evidence." Malik looked at the partial recording, then at the backups of Mateo's manifests. "What if the evidence arrives during the game?" Andre understood immediately. "You're trying to force a public decision." "I'm trying to make it impossible to hide the question." Cassandra resisted when Malik proposed releasing the documents before laboratory confirmation. Publishing too early could let the stadium call them fabricated, so Malik suggested a test no private laboratory could bury. Every game ball contained a tracking path through the stadium. If Reed sent one into the stands, a fan could surrender it publicly. If a second ball from the official replacement batch followed, independent scientists could compare them while the chain of custody unfolded on live television. The plan depended on Reed, Andre, Cassandra, a television producer willing to risk access, and a fan catching a foul ball in the right section. It was reckless. It was also the only path left. Cassandra contacted a broadcast producer she trusted. Andre reached Reed through the visiting clubhouse. Malik sent the manifests, Holloway's partial recording, and the storage codes to 3 independent reporters with instructions to release them simultaneously if his name appeared in another arrest report. Then he drove to a parking garage overlooking Summit Field and watched the game on his tablet. Reed came to bat in the first inning. The first pitch was a slider low. The second was a fastball inside. On the third pitch, Reed swung late by a fraction and drove the ball sharply into the visiting dugout. Andre caught it against his chest with a towel, sealed it inside a clear equipment bag, and held it where the dugout camera could see. The broadcast announcers laughed at first. Then the producer put a graphic on screen. Game ball retained 4 equipment review. Holloway called the dugout within seconds. Andre did not answer. In the third inning, Reed came up again and fouled another ball into section 132. It landed in the hands of a 12-year-old girl wearing his jersey. A reporter seated nearby offered the family a signed bat in exchange for allowing the ball to be photographed and sealed. The father agreed, but only after the camera showed the exchange from beginning to end. The black crescent mark was visible beside the seam. Social media exploded. By the 4th inning, Cassandra's article was live. It did not claim that Major League Baseball had ordered manipulation. It reported that shipping documents, internal storage codes, a hidden room, and multiple witnesses indicated that selected baseball batches at several high-altitude stadiums had been stored outside official systems. The article included Holloway's words, "We make the environment manageable." League officials announced an immediate review. Summit Field denied the existence of a second Humidor. Then Lena Ortiz appeared on live television. She had not been arrested. Holloway had suspended her and ordered security to remove her credentials, but she had left through the public concourse carrying photographs Mateo had hidden in her locker months earlier. Standing outside the stadium beside Cassandra, Lena described the movable wall, the color codes, and the unlogged carts. The crew chief halted the game after the 5th inning. Umpires inspected the equipment rooms while both teams waited on the field. Stadium officials guided them through the approved Humidor and claimed nothing else existed. From the parking garage, Malik called Lena. "Tell them to measure the west corridor," he said. "The architectural plan is 14 feet deeper than the room." Lena relayed the message. 20 minutes later, maintenance workers removed a shelving unit. Behind it was a steel door. The hidden Humidor contained 2,400 baseballs. Some boxes were marked red. Others were marked gold. Each carried dates, opponent abbreviations, and player initials. One red label read, IR 399. The game did not resume that night. Police sealed the storage corridor. League investigators collected the balls, computers, access logs, and surveillance equipment. Holloway left Summit Field through a loading exit beneath a blanket of camera flashes, but the discovery did not answer the largest question: who had authorized it? For 3 days, baseball existed in a state of controlled panic. Every high-altitude stadium was inspected. Aerostat suspended executives and insisted that environmental models had been misused by individual clients. Team owners claimed they had known nothing. Sportsbooks voided selected wagers while their attorneys argued over how much evidence qualified as compromised play. Then investigators found Malik's name inside the hidden system. The press turned toward him again. Aerostat had built the storage selection program from an early version of Malik's atmospheric normalization model. His code calculated the moisture adjustment required to move a projected fly ball toward a desired distance range. Malik had designed it to compare environments. Someone else had added a target field, desired outcome. At a crowded news conference, reporters asked whether he had created the system used to manipulate games. Malik could have denied responsibility. He could have blamed Aerostat, Holloway, or the executives who transformed his work after he left. Instead, he told the truth. I built a tool without asking every way powerful people might use it, he said. That does not make me the architect of this scheme, but it means I have a responsibility to help expose it. The statement cost him clients. It also saved his credibility. A federal sports integrity inquiry followed the money through consulting invoices, shell vendors, and private betting accounts. Holloway had not acted alone. He belonged to a small network of stadium executives, data contractors, and gambling intermediaries who profited from advanced knowledge of environmental settings. Yet profit was only part of the motive. Internal messages showed that some teams had used suppression batches when aging players approached performance bonuses. Other batches had been selected to cool visiting hitters during playoff races. Gold batches had appeared in games promoted around a fence, record chases, and television ratings. No single executive controlled the entire system. That was what made it survive. Everyone controlled a small piece, and each person convinced himself that the adjustment was too minor to change history. The laboratory results ended that defense. The red baseballs from Reed's game had absorbed significantly more moisture than the officially logged batch. Wind tunnel testing showed enough additional drag and reduced rebound to turn certain high, hard-hit balls into warning track outs. The effect was not absolute. A perfectly struck ball could still leave the park. But the probabilities had been moved. That was the sabotage, not a remote control deciding every play. A hidden thumb pressed against the scale. 6 weeks later, Isaiah Reed returned to Summit Field for a makeup game. The hidden room was empty, the wall removed, and independent monitors displayed storage conditions in real time for players, umpires, and the public. Malik watched from a seat behind home plate beside his mother. Denise wore his old Albuquerque jersey. She had kept it all those years even when he could not stand to look at it. Reed came to bat in the first inning. The crowd rose on the first pitch. He took a fastball outside. On the next pitch he swung. The sound was unmistakable. The ball climbed toward center field on nearly the same path as the one that had died weeks earlier. The exit velocity appeared, 113.8. The launch angle, 30 degrees. For a moment the entire stadium seemed afraid to breathe. The center fielder ran back. He reached the warning track. Then the ball passed over the wall and struck the facing of the second deck. Isaiah Reed had hit his 400th home run. He rounded first slowly, looking toward the scoreboard as the distance appeared, 451 feet. When Reed crossed home plate, he pointed toward Malik. The gesture lasted only a second, but every camera captured it. Denise squeezed her son's hand. You should have had your chance too, she said. Malik looked toward the outfield where a stadium employee retrieved Reed's ball under the eyes of 2 independent witnesses. Maybe, he said. But this isn't about giving me numbers back. What is it about? Making sure they can't steal the next man's. Months later, the league issued penalties, lifetime bans, and new storage rules. Historical statistics were not rewritten because investigators could not determine which individual plays had been altered. Players filed grievances. Fans argued over records. Some executives continued to call the scandal an exaggerated equipment failure. Malik knew better. He had seen how corruption protected itself. It rarely announced its presence with a dramatic order. It hid inside technical language, acceptable tolerances, missing data fields, and decisions divided among people who never used the word cheating. Turner Flight Metrics survived. Its new clients included players, unions, and youth organizations that wanted independent verification of performance data. Lena became director of equipment integrity for a player-led oversight group. Mateo's conviction was vacated after evidence showed the stolen memorabilia had been placed in his apartment by a security contractor connected to Holloway. Andre Bell retired at the end of the season. At his final game, he gave Malik the World Series ring he had worn around his neck. I don't deserve this, Malik said. Andre closed Malik's fingers around it. It isn't for what you won, it's for what you refused to protect. One evening in October, Malik returned alone to the small field where he had learned to hit as a boy. The city lights glowed beyond the chain-link fence. Dry leaves scraped across the infield. He carried the old Albuquerque baseball with him. Investigators had returned it after documenting the mark. The ball could never prove exactly who had ordered the batch or whether Malik would have reached the majors without it. History did not offer clean refunds. He placed it on home plate. For years, that ball had represented the moment his talent stopped being enough. Now it represented something different. Evidence survived when shame did not destroy it first. Malik walked to the outfield and stood beneath the dark sky, imagining all the home runs that had traveled farther or shorter because somebody in a hidden room decided the game needed managing. Fans would always debate eras, stadiums, weather, equipment, and luck. Baseball had never been perfectly pure, but imperfection was not permission. A game could survive randomness. It could survive bad calls, strange bounces, and human mistakes. What it could not survive was invisible control disguised as science. Above the empty field, a plane crossed the night in a slow line of light. Malik watched until it disappeared. Then he turned back toward home plate where the marked baseball rested beneath the stadium lamp. For the first time in 12 years, he did not see the end of his career. He saw the beginning of the truth.